Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. I'm excited to be here. It's early morning. I think this is the first time I've ever recorded early in the morning, so we'll see how it goes. And if you're watching on video, I can't get the Zoom to work, so this is a little farther back, but I'm sure you don't care. And I'm going to zip up my jacket. So all the little things I got to do so I'm not distracted by, I don't know if I want to wear it that way, but I'll just keep going. But today's episode is about rest. And it's interesting because I was going to record this last night, but I thought, I came back from a yoga class. I teach from 7 to 8 on Wednesdays, and I've recorded in the evenings before, but I just felt like I needed some downtime instead of talking. And so I did. And then I thought, well, then you're going to have to get up earlier because I want to get this out tomorrow morning. So I went to sleep earlier, about an hour earlier than I normally do, but it's the time that I used to go to bed. And I've been wanting to go to bed earlier. And I thought, how fitting for today's topic, because getting rest is important and getting enough sleep is important. And one of the key things is going to bed early enough. And sometimes when you have ADHD, you keep thinking of other things to do. You think, this is important, I need to do this. This is important, I need to do that. And you don't get the rest you need. And you stay up and you stay up, and then you still have to get up at the same time. So I'm glad I did that. I think we'll see. We'll see how my brain performs, because according to the studies, it'll do better. But it's not just the rest that you get for sleep. It's also the rest that you get during the day, throughout the day. If you feel that you've been pushing it, you realize, I need to slow down. I need to slow down. You need to listen to those signals. There are times when we need to push, and there are times that we need to slow down. In yoga, in Sanskrit, there's a name. It's like sthira and sukta or something like that. And it's a balance between effort and ease. And I love that because we do need to find that balance. We need to put forth effort at times. We need to push ourselves. If we can get ourselves to do something, we need to push ourselves to do that. And there are times that we need to slow down from the pushing, that we need to say, it's time to pause, it's time to rest. It can't keep going forever. Our bodies aren't built to do that. Our bodies are actually built to recover when we rest. And it's pretty interesting to learn the science behind this, because it applies to our ADHD brains in ways that I didn't realize. And at first, I have to admit, it sounded hokey. I thought, is this real science? Is this real? And it is. So I have some resources and stuff. So let me see what I can find here. But if you think of just the things that we do during the day, like we go get gas for our cars, and we stop and we put gas in the car so it can keep going. If we don't do that, or even if you have a hybrid car or an electric car, you have to recharge that car so it can keep going. It can't keep going on its own. And we're like that with our bodies. We need the rest, but with our ADHD brains, we need a proper amount of dopamine to function, to be able to get ourselves to a point where we can accomplish things, where we can do what we need to do, where we can go through our lives in a way that's meaningful. And if we had, they used to call gas stations filling stations. I don't know if you knew that. My dad probably still calls it a filling station, but it's where you go and fill up your car with gas. And when you get sleep, when you get enough rest, it's like plugging your phone in to recharge it. It's like putting gasoline in your car. Your ADHD brain runs low on dopamine faster than others, and it needs more dopamine to function properly. Some say it's because we have more dopamine receptors. Some say it's because the dopamine that we have doesn't always process right with the receptors. And so we need more than most. And the downtime helps restore the dopamine and helps it function better. So that is exciting to know. The other thing is, these are all the things that we know in life, that our houses don't just stay clean on their own. Our cars don't stay clean on their own. My car is pretty dirty right now. And wouldn't it be nice if we always had someone to do that for us? Some of you might. I don't. And if you had a house that was just in a disastrous mode, and maybe you're raising your hand and you're saying, I do. If you had someone to come in and just clean, it's pretty fabulous. When my second oldest daughter got married several years ago, it was right before Christmas. So we drove a couple days to get to her wedding. We did a big road trip and a road trip back. And then we had her kind of an open house at our house. She didn't graduate or grow up where we lived at the time. So we had an open house instead of a big reception where people who lived around could come, or some of our current friends could come and meet her and stuff. And my husband said, maybe we should have someone come clean the house when we get back so you don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about that. After getting back from the trip, on top of preparing for the open house, someone just comes in and cleans the house, which ended up being, I think, 3 ladies that came. I got a reference from someone else. The 3 ladies came in and cleaned. It was the nicest thing. And it was interesting to see how they worked, because they worked from the ceiling down. I don't know that they actually cleaned the ceiling, but it made sense in their method because they started up top. So if there were spider webs or whatever, and cleaned, dusted, whatever they did to clean. And then at the end, they cleaned the floors. And I thought, that's kind of cool. I love their method, because anything you clean higher up maybe ends up on the floor at the end. And you just clean that up. But I loved their system. And when you rest, it's like your brain has a little cleaning crew that comes through at night. They call this the glymphatic system. It's like the lymphatic system, like lymph nodes take care of the waste and things that aren't, like when you get, okay, maybe I'm not very much of a scientist when it comes to lymph tissues, but I do know that one of their jobs is to take things like disease and stuff and like you get the swollen lymph nodes and stuff. It's part of the process to help you heal as that comes in and impacts your body. Anyone who understands the lymphatic system better than me, feel free to to help me out here. But just know that I don't know it fully. I just know that it works as far as like cancer cells developing, disease developing. You also have a glymphatic system. And if you haven't heard of this, it is newer science, 2012 newer. For some of you who are younger, that might sound like a long time ago. If you've lived a lot longer, it seems pretty recent. 2012 could have been a couple years ago. It's really 13 years ago. But the glymphatic system takes out the waste products in your brain that builds up during the day. And without that cleanup, your brain feels more confused. You have more brain fog and that sort of thing. I can give you a little more details if you want. Let me find that. Because I thought I really want to understand it, even though when my brain understands something, I have to understand it so I believe it. But my ability to recall and give that information out isn't as good as some. So similar to the lymphatic system, it's a waste clearing system, but it's for your brain. It was discovered in 2012 by researchers at University of Rochester. I believe that's New York, right? And it uses cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, to flush out metabolic waste products from brain cells, including beta amyloid proteins, which are linked to Alzheimer's, dementia when they build up. So it's taking these things that could build up and cause problems, whether it's just in your daily life or even long term, and flushes the waste away. It's the most active. This process is the most active while you're in deep sleep. So there's the REM sleep, when you're in that deeper sleep and you're able to get that cycle. That's when it's the most active. Without enough rest, your brain can't do its job in cleaning that up, which contributes to brain fog, slower mental processing, and long-term risks. So that's pretty interesting to learn about. And there are other ways, teaching yoga, I know there are other ways to get your brain into that state, a similar state. It's not exactly the same state, but if you've ever done yoga, I don't know if this happens just in a meditation session, but in yoga, traditionally, the last pose is Shavasana, and people even have t-shirts that say, I'm only here for Shavasana, or tank tops or whatever. And Shavasana, if you do it long enough, and if you learn how to do it, or it might just happen on its own, you reach a state where your brain gets that deep, deep rest. They call it yoga nidra. And like I said, I'm not really good at repeating the details, but I've experienced it. And once I experienced it and saw what it does to recharge my brain and how it makes me feel throughout my body, it's pretty fabulous. Usually in my yoga classes, I do Shavasana for 10 minutes. It gives people more of an opportunity to get to that point. For some people, that's challenging. It's the most advanced part of their yoga class, because how do you stay still for 10 minutes? You learn to stay still for 10 minutes. And it's usually done just lying on your back. It could just be on a mat, it could be on the floor. You could have, if you're at home, you could even put your legs up on a coffee table or couch or bed, just the calves and stuff. It's relaxing that way. Or legs up the wall. You move to the wall and have your legs literally supported by the wall. Feels pretty great. For most people, everyone's a little different, but you find your way where your body can be still, and you try to find that stillness in the mind to give yourself that rest. It's kind of hard sometimes when you have a very scattered, overactive mind, but that's where you learn ways to do it, whether it's focusing on your breathing. Sometimes I should do a little meditation session on here. I think I'll do that. Maybe I'll make that one of my podcasts for next week while I'm gone, because that will be so easy for me to record. And if the idea of meditation sounds woo-woo or, what's she talking about? It's just a way to relax. It's like there's a calm app. Clearly people need that and use it. And it's a way to get your body to rest. And it can happen in 10 or 20 minutes in the middle of the day where you can get that reset. Or even if you don't feel tired, you just get that. It helps clear your mind. It really, really does. So another way that rest helps your brain is in just daily terms. Think of having, old-fashioned daily terms. Think of having a filing cabinet. In the old days, there were, and maybe there still are, metal filing cabinets. And when I was growing up, usually in a classroom or something, there was the tall metal single drawer filing cabinet that maybe had, 3-5 drawers. They could be really tall, really heavy, and they just have a ton of files in there, kind of probably hanging files for the most part, maybe not. And then there were the shorter ones too. I even had a few of them when I decided to get a little more organized. I bought a few oak lower filing cabinets just to have to the sides of my desk, because paperwork's always been hard for me, and that gave me a way to put it away and file it away. I haven't done that in a long time. When we moved that time, I thought, I don't need these anymore. I got rid of them. But now I have 3, I guess they're boxes, filing boxes. I like them a lot. I know they're the paper cardboard boxes. When you watch a TV show or something, whenever someone gets fired or they quit, they're cleaning out their office and they always have this cardboard filing box and they're picking it up like, I'm leaving the office. It looks like that, except it's made of some fabric. It's from Amazon and they're not cheap, but they're good enough quality for what they do. If you had to move them a lot, maybe they're not great quality, but they have a lid. The ones I have are light green. If you see this room, I kind of like that light green color. And they help me with filing my taxes and things like that. Not actually filing my taxes, but, putting my taxes in a file box. And then also with, Google Docs and Google Drive, that's basically a filing cabinet. I'm sure Microsoft has one too. There's probably a lot of systems online where you can file your ideas, your documents, your spreadsheets, all those things. So if you had a memory filing cabinet, we think of, wouldn't it be nice to be able to file a thought away and be able to access it in our brains? Sometimes we can. Sometimes we are able to recall things that we know are in there. And other times we just can't. And it's really interesting to see that when you're trying to do it on the fly, you're trying to think of something and you're talking to somebody and you say, I know this, it'll come to me later. It comes to you later because you're in a state of rest. Your brain's not having to work as hard at that moment to think of it, and then it just pops into your head because your brain is more rested, not sleep rested, not lay down rested, but maybe just walking away, going in the other room, getting a sip of water, and the idea comes to you. So when your brain is not maxed out, when it has more rest, there are things that are filed away that come back to you. There's a process to get those pieces of information that are in your brain filed properly. I did not know this. This is kind of fascinating. So if you think of your desk, your table, if you have a desk, I don't have a desk in this house. I gave mine to my son because I wasn't using it I wasn't using it enough to whatever the word is, value. There's a better word, but it's not coming to me because it's not filed properly, I guess. But to make use of it, to make it so that I needed it. I gave it to him because he needed a bigger space for his computer and stuff. I have a laptop. I'm using a little Pottery Barn children's table that I bought on Marketplace for my grandchildren. But it's a good size. It's kind of too small for them. It was smaller than I thought it would be. But I still bought it. I drove to the place and thought, well, it's still cute, even though it's really, really little. But back to the filing cabinet for your brain. If you think about your desk, your table, the floor, however you try to make sense of your papers, and they're just scattered, I always think of that as an indication of my brain when I'm working on things. It's so scattered, and it's really hard to find things. You might start out by making stacks, but then you keep spreading things out, and the stacks aren't very neat. My husband used to come walk by when I was doing things like that, taxes, or back in the days of scrapbooking or paying bills when it was more paper oriented. And he'd walk by and kind of take the stacks and make them more in an actual stack than a fuzzy stack, if you're thinking of something that's out of focus and neat. But we actually have that with our brain too. So when we are sleeping, we're sleeping well. It's when your brain takes things that you've learned during the day and files it away neatly. Isn't that interesting? Because it seems like, and there's probably more to this, but it seems like the things that you remembered from your childhood as a teenager, in young adulthood, that they got filed away neatly. And I remember more of those things than the last 10-year things. Those things maybe aren't stored as well. Why is that? Did I get better rest when I was younger? Probably. I probably slept better. My mom was more in control of that. As a child, you just got the sleep that you needed. As a teenager, you didn't have as much responsibility. Maybe you stayed up late, but then you slept in. And that's kind of fascinating to think of, that maybe those memories that you have from those periods of your life are filed away better. There are things that can happen in life that can make you lose access to that. And that's, maybe trauma or different things in your life that you want to forget some things and you end up forgetting other things. There's probably a lot of information on that I haven't looked up. But if you want to have a better filing system for what's going on now, get your sleep. And getting into a pattern where you can wake up on your own before your alarm clock, that's your real sleep pattern. That's your real sleep mode. Maybe you're somebody that there's no way you could wake up when you need to without your alarm clock, but maybe try going to bed a little earlier. Maybe see if there's actually a flow, a rhythm that you could get into. You still set your alarm because you want to make sure you don't not wake up. And that might make it harder to sleep. For me, it is. If I am not sure I have my alarm on, or what if I don't hear that, then I'm awake more during the night, not sleeping as well. And let's see what else here. So this is kind of fascinating too. So if you've ever tried noise canceling headphones, earbuds, the headphones work better. I have these if you're watching on. They're Beats. I use them to listen after the podcast to hear how good the quality is. And I don't know, I bought them for my husband for Christmas a couple years ago. because he liked noise canceling earbuds for the airplane. And I think he bought a less expensive set from Sony or something, and it wasn't that good quality. I used it a few times because it's nice not to hear the plane and stuff and, all the announcements and everything. But it wasn't that great. And then you had to kind of hold it and push it in to get it to work. It was a cheaper set. So I bought this for him for Christmas 2 years ago on a Black Friday sale. And I think because it's bigger, I don't think he's ever taken it on a plane. And my hope is that when we were in our room at night and we were both looking at our phones, or if I'm watching TV, sometimes he'll go on his phone and then watch a video and it's playing while I'm watching something else. And I thought, oh, if he has that, then I think these ideas are going to magically happen. Then he'll use the headphones because that would be nice to do. He could block out my sound and then I won't hear his sound. So I guess this was kind of a selfish gift in a way because I thought it would benefit me. And then I could use it on flights and stuff. But he never did that. He's still, it's just easier for him to watch things on his phone. And so, yeah. But I have learned that I can use this or my AirPods with my TV. I can use it as a Bluetooth device. And then I can block out other things and have really good sound. But anyway, yeah. I use it way more than he does. I take it on flights. It's really, really fabulous. If you really want to be able to rest on a flight. In fact, my son called me yesterday. He had to do an overnight flight to Fort Lauderdale from college and an overnight flight back because he's interviewing with dental schools in the middle of college and he didn't want to miss too much time. And he said, I got to learn to sleep better on a plane. And I thought, yeah, it's hard, especially when you're doing a cheap flight and the seats are so uncomfortable and everything. But when you find a system that works, having those headphones on, and then if you have a hooded sweatshirt, if you don't get too hot, I don't get too hot, I'm always cold. You put the hooded sweatshirt over and it kind of dims the light over your eyes. So you've got your headphones, you've got that on in your own little cave. And then because you have the hood, even if you don't want to bring one of those neck pillows, you can take something else. It could be a t-shirt. You could take something else from your bag and have it under the thing bag and put it around your neck and the hood will hold it there. Anyway, that's my latest thing. And then, there's supplements like ashwagandha and things that help you feel more sleepy. But okay, back to noise canceling mode. So noise canceling can be nice to drown out other things. And if you use noise canceling earbuds for other reasons, overstimulation, it's really nice. Sometimes we can't block out the stimulation. Part of that stimulation can come from our own brains. And we've just got so much going on. There's a lot going on during the day. We can't always be in noise cancellation heaven. So, and maybe we like the excitement too. Maybe we like lively environments, but your ADHD brain may take on more stimulation than others. Do you think it does? Think of sounds. Think of visuals. Think of how clothes fit. Do any of those affect you more? Do they affect your body and your brain? Do you hear sounds and think, this is making my brain feel like I'm going crazy? Maybe you don't, but I do. When I turn on a YouTube video and they have music in the background, unless it's very, very faint, I can't even hear the person. It's not that I can't hear the person. I just can't hear both things at the same time. It's too much stimulation. Or if you go into an environment, are some environments really easy to be in and other ones, it could just be like noticing things that are crooked on the wall to distract you. But I teach yoga, and most environments I've taught in, I've really enjoyed. But there's one fitness room at this gym that I teach at. They have 3 locations. And one of them is upstairs. It has a low ceiling, and it's a long room. And it kind of feels like a cave. I know a ton of people go to classes there. And they have a stage. I don't like to be on the stage. I tried teaching down lower. They had really loud fans, and you couldn't turn them off. They weren't just like the ceiling fans to keep you cool. They're antiviral fans. They echoed too much. And other people complained of that too. They said it's hard to do yoga in here. I thought, yeah, Yeah. Eventually, I just said I can't teach here anymore. But the room itself, even if the fans were fixed, I just didn't like it. And it was just the wrong kind of stimulation for me. I don't know. I think it was a ceiling thing. I don't know. Do you get like that? I don't know if I mentioned this before, when my youngest son, who's the one that taught me I have ADHD, because he told me when he went to college, learning from his friends, I think I might have ADHD. Can I meet with the doctor when I come home? And I thought, what? Like, I've raised 6 kids. What makes you think you have ADHD? Now I have a whole different understanding. But when he was a baby, he had 5 older brothers and sisters, and he's 3 years younger than the youngest sister above him. So a lot of activity, a couple in high school. Our house was busy and noisy, and I never tried to have my house be quiet when my kids went to sleep. That's when I vacuumed. That's when I cleaned up their room. I just figured they can go to sleep. I got to get things done, right? It's my time. So I never tried to keep the house quiet, and they fell asleep to noise. And I also did things like played music for them and stuff like that. And sometimes I shut their door, but he was different than my other babies. I breastfed all my kids. I like to feed him and hold him in my lap and let him fall asleep and put him in bed. I didn't put him in bed and have him fall asleep. I just held him. That was my time. And I would even tell my other kids, because when you have a baby and you have 5 other kids to take care of, you can't give as much time to your baby as you did maybe the other ones. And so I would give him more time to play on the floor. I wasn't holding him as much. Other people were holding and playing with him, but I wasn't. So I thought, I get disrupted so much from being with him that in the evening, okay, everyone leave me alone. This is my time with my baby. I can feed him. He can go to sleep. We named him James. I played Rockabye, Sweet Baby James, James Taylor album all the time. That was my exciting thing when we decided to name him James. I'm like, I can play that music. I can play that album. So I would feed him. And I mean, it's not, he was always playing. That was more like a nap time thing that I play that music. But back to the evening, he would never fall asleep on my lap. And I kept thinking, this is crazy. This is crazy. Why is he having a hard time falling asleep? I'd stand up and kind of, and everything. He'd fall asleep. And one night I just thought, what's going on here? And I took him in his room and put him in his crib, and his little baby shoulders just did a whole, like, I'm so glad to be in my crib by myself in a room where nobody else is making any noise. And he shared a room with 2 brothers. Excuse me. And, he's used to stimulation that way too. He grew up listening to the Beatles in his crib. So, the music he listened to, and he still loves the Beatles. But that was super interesting to see from the time he was a baby. When he needed rest, he couldn't have that stimulation anymore. It was like, it's over, Mom. Let me be in here alone. Let my body relax and let me go to sleep. And so that was his way of having that noise cancellation, getting away from all that, right? It was physically removing him. Have you ever done that where you've been in a space where it's just too much and you have to walk outside? Go for a walk. You need to get away from that stimulation. Your brain takes in so much stimulation during the day that you need proper rest. You need that sleep. It's like hitting a noise cancellation button. It gives your brain the space to quiet down. And it might seem ironic because at nighttime, you might feel like, I can't get my brain to quiet down. I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking of all these other things. I have a song in my head. Who knows why all this happens? A couple months ago, it's probably just last month that I know the little details probably don't matter to you, but I would have a certain song in my head for about 4 or 5 days in a row. And it would just be in my mind. I'd sing it, whatever. And I found that when I went to sleep at night, it was in my head. When I woke up to go to the bathroom, it was in my head. I'd go right back to sleep. When I woke up, there it was singing again. And I thought, that's so crazy. But I was able to sleep in between. And sometimes our brains are just going and going, and you need to find what can help your brain quiet when you're going to sleep. whatever it is. It can be an app. It can be white noise. I listen to podcasts with a relaxing voice with an engaging topic where I can follow it, enjoy it, but it's not a funny podcast. I've tried it with my funnier podcasts, or when their voices get a little, louder and stuff, it doesn't work as well. But that's my mode, or an audiobook. But sometimes the audiobooks, you have to be careful. Sometimes they'll have like a chapter in between thing where it plays some music that's too loud or something. Or the commercials are too loud. So you have to find that one that works for you. And you have to learn to use your timer on your phone, because at some point it needs to stop. And one time I was taking a nap. I must have been sick, because I usually don't take very long naps. And I put on this podcast that I listened to. And in my nap, I started dreaming. So I must have gotten to that REM state or whatever. Because usually I don't nap that long, or I don't want to wake up. But anyway, in my nap, I started dreaming that I was having this conversation with two people, and it was almost like I was in a phone booth. In the olden days, phone booths are small, and these two women were talking to me, and they kept talking, and I thought, okay, I need to get away from you now. I need to not hear you talk anymore. So I walked out of the phone booth and then sat in a booth, like in a restaurant, and they kept talking, and I thought, okay, it's really nice talking to you, but I need to go now. And in my dream, I kept going away. It was the voices of my podcast. I didn't put a sleep timer on, and they kept talking because they were still talking. And in my dream, my brain knew, you need to stop talking. But in my real life, I didn't know what was happening. Let's see, back here. I am going to see if I can pause for a second to get a sip of water. I don't know how to just do that without it making noise. So just a second. I actually I have a cold drink here of water, and then I also have throat coat tea. Have you ever tried that? It's by, I don't know, Organic Medicinals or something like that. It's called throat coat. And it is the best for soothing your throat. If you like the taste of licorice in a tea, which I didn't even know it was licorice. I guess licorice is good for your throat. But my husband said, oh, that's licorice. And I thought, no, it's not. Because I usually just had red vines. And it doesn't taste like red vines. And I never liked black licorice. But when I really think about that, it kind of tastes like black licorice without being yucky. And I guess black licorice is like really more of a licorice taste. And I don't know if you've ever seen actual licorice plants. It's like a weed. One time we were going for a walk years ago. My husband said, look, that's licorice, and you can bite it and it tastes. I'm like, what? And it was the same taste. So who knew? That's our little informative bit about licorice. But yeah, throat coat tea, if you've never tried it, it's fabulous. Fabulous. So last thing, executive function. So when you have ADHD, it's very, very likely you have executive dysfunction. It is a key element in ADHD, especially the attentive type. So the ability to plan, make decisions, have self-control, that could be more the hyperactive, impulsive type. But it can also be the inattentive type, because how much control do you have with your brain to stay focused? The inattention is on the thing that you're trying to pay attention to. Yes, you have a lot of things that you pay attention to, but what about the thing that you need to pay attention to? So that executive dysfunction, that inability for your working memory to take some information. I'm going to put my keys down. You're not taking that information and remembering where you put them down if you don't put them in the same place every time. And that helps. That causes you to lose things, to not keep track of things. And when you don't have the proper rest, it's gonna be worse. Last night, and so I have this little system. We have an ice maker, but I also bought a little silicone ice tray with a lid that they sell like at TJ Maxx and stuff. And it has really big ice cubes. And I bought it because if our ice maker stops working, I'll have another source. And it has really huge ice cubes. So I keep making them because now that I teach hot yoga, I need the bigger ice cubes. They keep the water cooler longer. And it just adds to our ice production. So I kind of have that's part of my daily thing that every once in a while I'll think, take that out, put it on the counter. It sticks to it when you first take it out. So it has to sit there for a little bit and then you can take it out. And if I forget about it, I come in and it's a puddle of water and I think, oh, I forgot. And so last night I thought, go in and take that out and just, a few minutes later, come back in and put it in the freezer, because tomorrow morning you need to get your water bottles, your smoothie, everything ready to go to hot yoga, because I really have to make sure I'm hydrated before, during, after, eat something right after, so that it doesn't just wipe me out for the rest of the day. It's my whole hot yoga teaching method. And so I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I go in the other room because it was kind of the last thing I needed to do. I needed to go in the bathroom, brush my teeth, and I was going to come back in. I go back in the kitchen. I don't even see it. A lot of times I miss it because I don't go back in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen. I don't see it. I turn off the light in the pantry. I walk out in the dark and go to get in bed. And somehow I remembered, you still have the ice in there. I must have done 4 or 5 things in between, because by the time I went back in there, it had melted quite a bit, but not completely. So I assessed, do you want to just stick it back in the freezer like you normally do, or do you want to just use these ice cubes that aren't as big, but throw them in there, refill it, maybe I'll have some new ones in the morning to add to it. And I thought, yeah, do that. So I did that, but I stumbled and knocked things over, and because I was in the dark. I'm trying to be quiet. My husband's already fallen asleep, and it's pretty echoey in there. And I think just, get out the water and pour it in and put it away. So I do. And usually I spill the water all over the counter and everything. I'm like, whatever, put it away and think, just go back to bed. But I decide to put one more thing over on the counter by the sink. And when I do, I knock over a giant water bottle that still had water in it. And it's, one of those kind of Hydro Flask tall metal ones. Knocks over on the floor. Water goes all over the floor. I'm in the dark. I'm in my last thing of the day. But I wasn't doing anything carefully. I wasn't even giving myself the advantage of sight. I was trying to do it in the dark. So I turned on the lights, found a towel, and just kind of laughed, because that's my life. That's my life. But yeah. Oh, but yeah, all these things, it's pretty fascinating, because we have lower dopamine levels for what we need to use. And I didn't know that sleep could help. I knew that other things could help boost that dopamine production, dopamine function, like exercise, like ADHD medication. There are even some supplements that help some people. But sleep is really important. And the lymphatic system. I mean, who knew? We had waste products, which makes sense because we have waste products in our body. We go to the bathroom, we eat, and that nourishes our body in that way. But we also have a cleaning system for the brain and a filing system. Kind of makes sense. I knew about the working memory, that it needs to go in there. I didn't know it need to get even tucked away even more as we rest. Kind of wonderful to know. And I'm sure you know ways to rest, to get your sleep. I mean, sleep is the number one, but really listening to your body and fitting it in, scheduling it. I tell people when they come to my classes, I even teach some stretch classes and do it more in a yoga mode, but without as much yoga talk. But sometimes you have to schedule rest like it's an appointment. And that is why people go to yoga classes or a stretch class, because they realize, I'm not going to do this on my own and my body needs it. But if you can get yourself to do it on your own, even at home, I have yoga videos. You could do some at home if you wanted. But just tell yourself, at this time of day or twice a week, I'm going to do this. When you've been really going, plan in some downtime. Take breaks, all of those things. Take a nap if you need it. Take a quiet time. Even, if you're getting places late and you really plan to get somewhere early, sometimes that'll just make it so you get there on time. But if you do actually get there early, sit in your car. Let yourself close your eyes a little bit. Set an alarm so you don't sleep past it. If you can fall asleep in your car. Or even just close your eyes and enjoy a moment. But you need to treat rest as this recharge, this restoration in your body to help your brain do its absolute best. it is a strategy, not a luxury. I mean, it's a luxury too, but it's an ADHD tool to get the rest that you need. And if you're having a hard time going to sleep, try to go to sleep earlier. It's not always easy, but start by going to sleep earlier and see if that helps you get into a pattern, because maybe you do need more sleep and maybe you don't. I've worried often because I'm good with 6 hours. If I get sick, I try to get myself to sleep longer if I can, but usually I wake up after 6 hours. And I used to worry because every article, expert says 8 hours. And I asked my doctor last time I went in, just my family doctor, and maybe she doesn't know everything, but I just said, should I be worried if I'm just getting 6 hours of sleep? Is that causing some disadvantage in my body? She said, are you tired during the day? And I said, no. She said, then you shouldn't be worried. So that's good, huh? Good. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Thursday if you're listening today. Thank you for listening. Share my podcast with a friend or two or more. Spread the word. Help other people figure out their brains and get them to work better. Or at least just, get the rest we need so we can not max out. We do the best we can. It's not always going to be perfect. We might have our evenings where we knock things on the floor and have to clean up water at the end. But it's part of life when you have ADHD. And thank you so much. I will be back with more episodes next week, even though I'll actually be out of town. And I'll be back the following week. But have a lovely fall day. If you get fall weather, fall colors, that's amazing. And I guess that's it. I have such a hard time saying goodbye. Bye.